Thursday Night Football, the Chicago Bears are on the road to take on the Washington Commanders in the biggest game of the year. One player prop, one game pick, and one Underdog Fantasy entry is on the way. What's going on? My name is Austin from Calling Our Shot. First off, we got to dive into a recap from how we did last week. Has not been a great start to the season. Let's talk about it. 2-2 on our game picks. Those are, the spreads, over-unders, teasers. 5-7 on props. Could not get anything going. Was capped off by an 0-2 Monday Night Football, which that game stunk. And we're just down about 5 units on the year, man. It's not been a good start through the first 4 weeks. I'm confident we'll turn around. You guys know, the player props just are not been, we haven't got our footing there yet. And you guys know, if you've been watching our channel for a while, which number one, I appreciate it. But number two, we've dominated props, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA, whether it's MLB. We do well in the props, just not gotten our footing just yet. I'm confident we'll turn that around. Hopefully that starts tonight, and hopefully that can continue the rest of the season. We're only 4 weeks in. There's a lot of time to turn our season around. I'm not too worried about this first, 4 weeks. We're going to have a great, rest of the year. Let's lock in. If you are new, hit that subscribe button, drop a like. And at the end of the video, like I said, I'll have an Underdog Fantasy entry. Underdog Fantasy, one of the great places where you can, make some money. Honestly, that's what we're all trying to do. If you're watching this video, we have a ton of different NFL markets, NBA markets, MLB markets. Speaking of NBA, we're coming back with those daily videos soon in a couple weeks. But the best part about Underdog Fantasy, if you use our code COS or the top link in the description, you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100. So take advantage of it. And you will also get a free square for Justin Fields to use on Thursday. That's only for new users. So make sure you use that code so you get that free square. Of course, here are all the states where Underdog Fantasy is in. You want to make sure you have Pick'em. Now, I will note, New York's probably going to go away soon because they just changed their legislation. But if you are in any other states, take advantage of it. Sign up for Underdog, top link in description, or use our code COS for that free square and that 100% deposit match up to $100. It's free money. But let's dive into our picks. Last Thursday night, if you looked at our picks, our player prop was a longest reception prop. We cashed that in the first quarter. Today, let's try to do that once again because we're going to another long reception. Let's talk about him. Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders, over 8.5 yards for his longest reception, minus 108 on FanDuel. Now, personally, I think this is playable to right around minus 130. These props can be pretty sharp, though. So if the line does go up to 9.5, which I think FanDuel might raise it up quick, might lower it. If you can get 8.5, make sure you line shop, make sure you get that line. Now, if you are on, a daily fantasy app, maybe like an Underdog Fantasy, a PrizePicks, a Sleeper, I like his over in receiving yards as well. It's about 13.5. And there is a distinct difference between his over in yards for longest reception and his over in receiving yards. There could be a way where we see, we only need to cash this play that I'm talking about. We only need one catch. He needs to get 9 yards on that catch. I don't care what he does on the rest of his catches. He could lose 100 yards his rest of his catches. We just need 9 yards on one of them. And I certainly think he can get that done. But like I said, I think his receiving yards is a good thing, and you'll see why I kind of like this prop. Now, let's talk about Antonio Gibson so far this season. He is 3-1 to the over. So he's gone over 3 times, gone under once, and you've seen his long reception, 10, 36, 10, and 7 yards. So he's gotten pretty close on a couple of these games. We've seen him barely going over with 10-yard receptions, had that big one with the 36, then the 7-yard. And you look at last year, Gibson was over this line in 12 of 15 games. And he's the receiving back for this backfield. Now, a lot of people are going to be on Brian Robinson, and for good reason, on Thursday night. I like his rushing attempts line. I think he's like 15.5. That's going to be one of the most bet props out there. However, if I think Antonio Gibson in a short week, I don't necessarily know if they maybe run Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson into the ground. This guy playing a lot of snaps, running the football a lot for him. But we've seen this season, you look at Gibson, I think he'll be on the field a good amount, and he has been. 35, 48, 61, and 38% of snaps. Not too bad. In those snaps, he's ran 17, 25, 28, and 19 routes, resulting in 1, 3, 5, and 1 target. So coming off a week where the Eagles really did a great job at stopping them targeting their running backs out of the backfield, they actually let Terry McLaurin have a pretty good day. Curtis Samuel had a pretty decent day as well. And you saw the Washington Commanders be able to move the football down the field against the Eagles. However, I don't necessarily know if it's the same game plan from the Bears in terms of how they're going to defend this Commanders offense. And I could see maybe Antonio Gibson gets a couple receptions out of the backfield, and we need 9 yards just out of one of them, and I think he can get that done. So we look at the wide receivers for the Commanders. Jahan Dotson, he's injured. Curtis Samuel, injured as well. They're both going to play, but would it be surprising if either of them maybe potentially gets re-injured? No. Would it be surprised if either of those guys is potentially limited? No, either. And Curtis Samuel runs similar routes to Antonio Gibson. They're both not going far down the field, kind of sitting in those flats, just kind of running those screen type routes. That's where they get targeted. So maybe Curtis Samuel sees a downtick in his production, and we see maybe Antonio Gibson run some of those routes for him, and then we just need one of those catches to go 9 yards. We also look at the Bears defense. It's going to be down some guys. Eddie Jackson, their safety, he's out. Jalen Johnson, their corner, He's out as well. So this is a team that the defense has not looked good for the Bears. Now they're going to have to start some backups. I think they're going to maybe play some two safety looks and say, you know what? If Sam Howell wants to dink and dunk his way down the field, we'll live with that. We'll live with our pass rush being able to get to him because this Commanders defense, our offensive line has really struggled this year, which we'll talk about in a little bit more in depth when we get to our game pick. I just think that we're going to see them play deep safeties, and they're going to see Sam Howell have to dump it off to the running backs. And I really do think Antonio Gibson will get us at least a 9-yard reception. Now, and not just that, you look at the Bears, they've been struggling defending opposing running backs, so whether it's on the ground or in the air, they've really struggled through the air. So far this season, the Bears have allowed the second most receiving yards to opposing running backs. So if you're looking for a Brian Robinson receiving yards prop, don't hate that. Probably prefer Antonio Gibson because he's the guy that's on the third downs and he'll play in the 2-minute drills if that's what it comes to. But if you look at the list of running backs and their longest reception for Chicago, let's just look at these running backs. Aaron Jones in week 1 had a 51-yarder and a 35-yarder. He had 2 of them. You saw A.J. Dillon have a 12-yard reception. Rashad White, a 9-yarder. Jerick McKinnon had a 10. His teammate Isaiah Pacheco had a 9-yarder. Jaleel McLaughlin got it last week with an 18-yarder. Samaje Perine had a 12-yard reception. So all these guys, 7 running backs through 4 weeks, including at least 1 every single week. Most weeks 2 have hit this line. So I look at a guy like not like Khalil Herbert, who I actually think has a decent day. Look at a guy like Antonio Gibson. He's going to get the targets. He's going to be that guy, that receiving back out of the backfield. And for a guy like Sam Howell, who's really not had a ton of time in standing in the pocket, maybe he has a little bit more time because they don't trust the Bears' pass rush. Maybe he has some extra second to maybe dump it off to Antonio Gibson. And he's looked well when he gets the ball in his hands. So look, I really like Antonio Gibson. This is a sneaky prop. I don't expect a lot of people to be on it, but I think it's a good one, and hopefully we can cash it in the first quarter like we did that Josh Reynolds one last week. Like I said, it's just a long reception. All it takes is one, which Antonio Gibson has done before. He's only had 1 reception before, and he still got this done. I really like Antonio Gibson on Sunday. Well, not on Sunday, on Thursday Night Football. I think it's a great prop. We'll take us over 8.5 yards for his longest reception. If he does go up to 9.5, I'll root for everyone out there as well. I think that's still a good bet. But let's keep it moving, and let's talk about this game and who I think wins. But in terms of what I'm going to track towards my record, it will be the Bears and Commanders for taking the under 44.5 points, minus 110 on Bet365. If you want to lean who I think wins this game and probably covers, I lean Commanders. However, I feel like this is a great sell high spot for the Commanders offense, especially, and I don't really trust the Bears defense or offense either. So I really just trust the under in this one. I'm going to root for no points. I mean, it's no fun watching the game that's under 44.5, but when it's an absolute just disgusting game, you'll be like, oh, all right, let's cash an under, because that's what I anticipate it to be. Now, if you talk about these two teams, they did play last year, and I doubt we get a duplication of that game, but last year it was a 12-7 final score, one of the ugliest Thursday night football games. Now, Carson Wentz did start that game, but Sam Howell is better than Carson Wentz, at least in this offense. They obviously have Eric Bieniemy out there, so their offense is much better than they were last year. But Justin Fields is still out there, and he only mustered up 7 points against the Commanders then. And this is the Commanders defense that has been up and down this season. They've had their fair share of struggles, so has the Bears defense. But I think we're leaning towards it under here. I don't trust either of these two offenses. And you look, both offenses are coming off high-scoring games. You know, the Bears scored 28 against the Broncos. Their defense stunk. You know, the Commanders have scored 31 against a very good Eagles defense. I think we're seeing that sell high spot, and I think the efficiency comes down. I don't think we see as many touchdowns in this game. I think we see maybe the teams having to settle for field goals, and that's how you cash an under. But you look at so far this season, the Commanders are 2-2 towards the over-under. 2 games over, 2 games under. The final scores of those games, 36, 68, 40, and 65 points. You look at the Bears, they are, in fact, have not gone under yet this season. They're 4-0 to the over with games of 58, 44, 51, and 59 points. Now, technically, that 44 points would cash towards our under, the line we get today. It did not cash the under in that game. But let's talk about these two teams, because I just don't think that we're going to see the Bears consistently stink on defense. I think their defense can at least show up. And this is a Commanders team that has struggled to protect the quarterback. I mean, the Commanders have surrendered 24 sacks this season, 4+ in each game. This is a Bears defensive line that has struggled to get to the quarterback. But if they're going to be able to have some positive matchups here, maybe we see them get to the quarterback and don't let their coverage, which has a bunch of new guys. I already talked about the guys injured, covering so long. And I see maybe they'll be able to get off the field, which they have not been able to do so far this season. Whereas on the other side, the Bears surrendered 17 sacks, 3+ in each game. I know this Commanders defensive line can get after the quarterback. Chase Young needs be a little bit better at setting the edge instead of just trying to get his and get his sack numbers up. But I do think that these defenses can step up, and the defensive lines can put their opposing offenses in second and long, third and long. get off the field. And we look at these two offenses, they've struggled to convert on third down. Washington 27th in third down conversion percentage in the NFL at just 33.3%. The Bears are 19th, so not much higher than them at 38%. So if we can get a game in which we see two offenses struggle to convert on third down, I'll live with it. If they want to convert on third down via a Antonio Gibson, reception, I'll live with that as well. But I just think the under is a good spot to be here. I think people are expecting, a high-scoring team. Given how the status of both defenses have been, I think this is a lower-scoring game. Give me the under 44.5 points. If I had to bet a spread, it would be the Commanders, but I don't have a ton of confidence in that. I'd rather take the under. It's time to wrap up the video with an Underdog Fantasy entry. And a reminder, we'll throw it up on the screen. Reminder, if you want to sign up for Underdog, use our code COS or the top link in the description. You get 100% deposit match up to $100. Here are my three legs. Antonio Gibson higher than 13.5 receiving yards. They don't have a long reception prop, but I think this one's good enough. DJ Moore lower than 4 receptions, and Terry McLaurin lower than 7 targets. The targets is the market that really only seen Underdog Fantasy have, so they have a bunch of other markets. They have like yards after catch, first downs, and things of that nature, completion percentage. I don't see Terry McLaurin having a big night. He just had a good night against the Eagles. He normally always goes off against the Eagles. I think he has a lower night. I don't think there's as much volume coming his way. Wouldn't be surprised if we see this Bears defense double him as well with the young guys out there. Probably just double him, take him away, make someone else beat you, like Antonio Gibson. And then DJ Moore lower than 4 receptions. I imagine his over 3.5 receptions will be a very highly bet prop. I think this one has some decent push potential. He could end with 4 on the dot, but coming off a big game last week, I just don't see it happening with DJ Moore in this fast offense for the Bears. So I'll take the lower. I think this is the same thing. Commanders can maybe double team DJ Moore and say, you know what? Make one of the other guys, Darnell Mooney, Equinemius St. Brown, make those guys beat me, not a guy like DJ Moore. So I'll throw $20 on it to win 120 if you want to tell me. It's on Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you use our code COS or top link in the description, get that deposit match. And if you want to throw Justin Fields as free square in there when you do sign up and you're a new user, you can do that as well and win some more money. But those are my favorite picks of the day. Antonio Gibson, we're counting on you. Under, we're counting on you. Hopefully it's an ugly game, although it's not good to watch. But if it's a high-scoring game, we'll at least pay for some entertainment. But let's have a great day. Let's have a great week 5. Let's continue to hopefully get back on track to our winning ways that we have in the NFL the past couple seasons. I'll see you guys in the next one. We'll have some more NFL videos on Friday. I'm Austin, signing out. Peace.